I may leave soon if we can make it short.
I think that's very doable. Given especially that I really didn't even have time to prepare for today, so our agenda is probably a mess. Let's just see where we're at. Action items. I am still working with Bob and our new volunteer, Eric, on developing this new sizing badge. I gave an update last time. I don't think there's much new to report, except that we're still working on it. Now, let's see. Ben, you were going to ask Masvi to export all the badges that were issued by that Pathways account. Did you ever have a chance to do that?
Yeah, I talked to him about it. He apparently made a tool for it. And I have to now dig through my emails to see if I can find specifically what it is. But the gist of it is having some of those when we meet with Bob will be really helpful, because we can just sort of line those up. And I think, you know, in the end, getting to one admin account on Badger will be wonderful.
The only thing I can think of, Ben, is that there's something that happened on the back end of Badger that is, I don't think it's that it's Bob is logging into that account or anything. I think Bob is issuing badges through his account, but then somehow this Pathways account is like picking them up and reissuing them or something. I don't know, but I suspect that there's something that happened on the back end of Badger that's causing that. I just can't, there's no way Bob would even know about that address to log into it, you know, much less have a password.
I was thinking the same thing. It could be some kind of a module that's basically just taking everybody's activity and pumping it out through one sort of shared account, which makes it a mess for us to figure out.
Because I know, I don't know the details, but I know the only one that was working on anything called Pathways was Maria. She was working on this idea that you follow a certain pathway of getting certain badges, and that leads you to a certain accomplishment. And she wanted to implement Pathways in Badger, and I remember her talking about that. So I'm just thinking that somewhere along the lines she started testing something, or she asked Badger to set something up so she could test something, and it started doing this as a result. So that's my guess. We have to figure out the details.
Right. So we probably will want to circle back to Maria at some point, but I think the first step is to see if we can reset up Bob's account potentially, and just make sure if we can just have a list of the activities and we can see which ones are him, which ones aren't. That would probably help to prove that hypothesis. That's a good point.
Yeah. Let's see. Ben, draft email to device recipients, inviting them to join the panel. You did that. And whoops. And how do I guess I'll just put it down. And then I did send that out to all of the EWC. I didn't send it to all EWC users. I sent it to all case owners, because I thought that was the best chance of reaching the people that are actually device users. So anybody who has created a case in e-NABLE Web Central received an email inviting them to, well, you know what you wrote up. I copied your message.
When did you send that out?
Just this morning.
Okay. I did get a email from somebody asking about sort of an exoskeleton device. So I'll forward them back to EWC for that, but might see if I can have some of these folks be involved. Did you CC me on that email? Probably not, because it's through the system.
Automated. I can't CC. It's just an automated thing that sends it. So unless you've created a case in e-NABLE Web Central, you wouldn't have gotten it.
Okay. And what was the date on it for the? Did it specify when the next session is? Because we have had Patrick is taking a bit of a step back this week.
It was a copy and paste of the email that you sent me. You sent me an email saying, here's the draft for EWC. It was just a copy and paste of whatever that was. I don't remember.
Okay, great. I think it just asked people to follow up with me, so that's perfect.
Okay. Jeremy, convert the Lumio discussion proposal. I don't think I have done that. So I know I'm late, but I just haven't gotten to it. And honestly, you know, letting a little bit of a longer discussion happen is not the end of the world. So I will get to it as soon as I can.
I read it the other day, though. It looks good. People are, I think shouldn't be a problem. John?
John?
I do want to move on. I think we've got to go pick up the dog at the hospital.
Okay.
Jeremy, I missed Saturday's device meeting.
Okay.
But if it happened, then it's worth viewing. I will view it if you make the video available to me.
The video is available. It's always in our notes. If you just go into the workflow, you'll find the link to the recording there.
Good. Is there anything on my action items or anything you think you need me for?
I don't think so, other than the fact that we talked as a team about, you know, the torsion spring discussion we've been having. And generally speaking, everyone's really excited about the prospect of just getting some custom torsion springs, figuring out the thickness that'll give us the tension we want, and using a tension fit, you know, into the fingers. We want to try it out.
What I was really asking is about, for this meeting, is there anything I'm needed for?
Are you talking about tomorrow's meeting?
No, this meeting now, SPC.
No.
I'll take the notes, John. You're good to go.
Okay, that's right. Goodbye.
Bye.
And then there was 2.
Have a nice quorum.
Yeah, I was asking John, I said to him earlier, I said, you know, how many exactly constitutes a quorum for us? And, you know, at first he said 2, but I said, well, I mean, it's actually, you know, a more relevant question now that we have this new program that's been approved for potentially approving funding requests. You know, we ought to think about how many people does it take if there's, you know, less than, I don't know, 4 of us here. It probably doesn't make sense for us to be making calls on funding requests. I don't know what that number is, but we ought to think about that.
I totally agree with you. And I think that's a great point to add into the Lumio discussion. I'll add a little side note in there.
Thanks, yeah.
How many people? Good question. Now, it doesn't mean that if there's only 2 people, the meeting is canceled necessarily,
Right.
but you're right that those decisions wouldn't be able to be made. You know,
Yeah.
Ben and Jeremy decide that Ben and Jeremy get, you know, ice cream money for the afternoon, it wouldn't fly.
Exactly. Anyway, I don't think I've gotten to these others. I was supposed to set up a couple of subdomains. I haven't even looked at the DNS, so I've got to get in there for the DNS. And I know you wanted to look at something for the mail DNS.
Yep.
So
Yeah, before the next newsletter, that's definitely something that has to happen. The last, I look at the data when I send out those newsletters, and the last one was poor in terms of you know, engagement. And it was pretty clear to me that when I called and talked to somebody at Benchmark, they said that the DNS is really had been shifted.
Got it. Yeah, I'm just looking here. Let me get into I'm going to the Google Admin Console, because it used to be, I guess now that I'm logged in, I guess there's no reason I can't share this.
And Benchmark, as long as we're going to go down this, Benchmark does support. They do have like a support person that you can talk to that can walk you through it in terms of specifically what they recommend. So maybe you and I can set up a meeting time when I can drag in somebody from Benchmark and they can walk us through it.
Sure. I don't even see the DNS console in here anymore. What the heck?
DNS basics is that frequently asked question.
No, yeah, there's a management console specifically for their DNS here. Access your hosted DNS settings from the console. Identify your domain host. Okay. Domains, add and remove domains. Click advanced DNS settings. Yeah, see, I didn't see that. Let's go back to the domains. So here's the domains.
Yeah.
Each domains, and there's e-NABLE.org, but I don't see anything. Am I covering it with my
Admin console setup? No, that's
yeah, I looked at that. I don't see anything here about advanced
the
DNS.
down arrow. No, whitelisted domains. Huh. Okay, so yeah, maybe we can find a time next week to meet. You know, probably wouldn't take more than
Well,
an
I
hour.
think we got to get Masvi involved, because I remember Masvi changing something with the way DNS is managed, and I think it may be that we can no longer do it through Google Admin. I think he may have externalized that so that updates could be made more easily. And that may be true, but I don't know where those updates happen now. So we have to get MASV involved here.
Okay. I can send that email out. I'll tag myself in the notes
Okay. Yeah.
to follow up with MASV.
All right. Let me stop this. Well, let's see here. I haven't had a chance to update the charts and all that kind of stuff here, so we'll skip that for now.
That's fine.
And I didn't even review our agenda, so a lot of these are probably out of order. We'll skip the stuff that Isabella's working on. We got some diagrams we're working on. You were obviously in the other meeting about community systems, so we don't need to go through all that right now. We'll have updates for the community soon. I don't know. Is there anything we talked about this test pilot thing? There is it's worth talking about the terminology for a moment. I've always been a big proponent of I guess it's kind of a branding approach. When as a business, when you're trying to brand a product, you really want to be very consistent with your terminology and right down to capitalization or whatever. It's got to be absolutely identical every time. And I've seen I see, for example, the space is called device pilots, but then in other places it's called panel of pilots, and then I see test pilots, and these are subtle and minor differences, but I would be in favor of let's pick some terminology and just use that everywhere.
Yep. And I think too, my preference, I'll forward you an email that I had with John and MASV. I mean, I think it is different languages. Like, you can't just say this is the word that everybody has to translate. I think it's worth asking people what is a word that means this. And basically, it's not just somebody who is receiving a gift of a thing.
Right.
That shouldn't be the finish line. In some ways, the design and iteration happens after the delivery. That's when customization happens. That's when that dialogue is actually informed by a purpose. So
I completely get the concept. I personally, I tend to agree. I know I heard John mention this in the previous meeting. I tend to agree with the idea of test pilot. That just seems, in English at least, it seems like the best fit to me for that role that we're describing. In other words, I mean, a pilot's job is just to fly. A test pilot's job is to give feedback about how the plane handled and that kind of thing. So a test pilot really strikes the right note to me.
Right. I'm not sure if I've been leaning towards device pilot, but you're right that a test pilot is closer. I don't know if there's a word in every language for that. I know that I did some digging, and the word pilot is really easily translated into, Mandarin, Russian, all the Romance languages.
I think that role of a literal test pilot must exist in every,
Well, pilot does, but I don't know about test pilot. But heads or tails,
they'd have some way of referring to that in their language. It might not be a single word, but it would be something.
Right. And if it's somebody that is, basically the navigator, the controller, the conductor of the device, even that in and of itself, even without the idea of, putting test in there, I think there is, it's a big shift. It's a shift away from saying, here's a person that is needy, that just needs to receive something. And here is a person that is, has a key role in leading. And I think that is built into that word pilot, but it's different languages.
I agree. That's important that we want them having that leading component, but I want to point out that there's also an element here of risk mitigation for the volunteers. The vision with e-NABLE was always such that, I'm going back to, Jen and Owen and the original discussions that were had. It was always the idea of not just making hands for people. It was working with them to learn how to make hands for themselves. And that helps to limit the liability because you are no longer producing and delivering a device. This is just a collaborative thing that you're doing together, and they are making their own device. And that really helps to protect the volunteer, actually, from any possible liability.
Right. So, I think what's going to be probably the easiest to translate will be device pilot. I did get an email today from somebody that's saying he's interested in piloting a device. So, you know, they do work as adjectives and verbs in English anyways, which is nice. But you're right, having a single term would be good. And it's not something that, you know, I can decide. It's more of having the meaning be clear, maybe making some sort of a post as an example and starting to shift. I mean, I noticed when I was writing the Pakistan chapter spotlight, I have shifted from recipient to recipient volunteer. That's a step in that direction. It's saying that this is a person that's also volunteering their time. They're part of our community in that sense. I think once we decide on that terminology, I can start shifting that in the posts that I make. It is going to be a transition. People are going to, I don't know, be at different stages.
You're welcome to do that however you want. I just share one idea with you that I don't know if you're aware of this, but in the hub, just in the main forum, we actually have a polling tool there just for doing basic polls. So if you want to, you could post something here asking, you know, a question about the terminology. You can choose whether you want to allow people to choose multiple answers, anonymous votes, etc. And you can post this poll right in the hub and just let people vote with a single click. That's just one tool that we do have available.
That's a great idea. Maybe that would be something to aim for next week, and for having a couple options, you know, putting the whole idea behind it out there and saying that, you know, if we can decide on a meaning, each chapter can decide what's closest in that language, and then we can start to collect a list of this is the terminology that is used for this role within our community, and the importance of it. You know, I think it's a great idea to do a poll.
I mean, it would be fun because honestly, we've never used that feature. It would be our first poll in the hub, and I'd love to see how that works. If it works, I mean, I see that as being useful for all kinds of things where you don't want to go through the whole Lumio process. For something more basic, it might be really helpful to do quick little polling in the hub. So let's you know, see how it works.
Yeah, great, good suggestion.
So I don't think there is anything in Lumio to go over since I haven't converted that discussion to a proposal. We got some notes here about Lindsay and the work she's doing, which we'll save till she's here. Some notes about the community systems discussions. Some notes about Andrew's work. Yeah, I don't know that there's a whole lot more here in the agenda that we would need to go through. So I'll just, and since it's just the two of us, is there anything you wanted to talk about?
Boy, there was something earlier I was thinking about, but now it's slipped my mind. In terms of this community systems group, I think it's really exciting to have some momentum going with that. You know, I wonder if and there's no reason to have anything posted in Lumio or in the hub yet. And I do get the sense that, you know, let this thing sort of get some momentum first.
That's what I was thinking, because at some point I'm going to need to have a discussion with my development team about, hey, we're shutting down e-NABLE Web Central, and I don't know that it's, you know, I don't know that we're quite there yet. I want to see the new platform and make sure it's going to work the way we hope it will and all that. And once we have that up and running, then yeah, we'll start to have those discussions and transition things.
Right.
We'll figure out how to get those cases that are still left in e-NABLE Web Central, get those ported over, all that kind of stuff. Right.
I guess in other news, I am meeting potentially with it's with Evan and potentially John if he's available this afternoon to talk about some Wishbone stuff. I would like to, I've been waiting to sort of get momentum going with the badging stuff and the chapter stuff, and just kind of trying to be pragmatic about the whole thing and letting the pieces sort of fit together as it comes. But I'm considering setting up sort of a live prototype of the Wishbone project, and that wouldn't be fully automated. It would involve, having to go in the background and copy and paste things and sort of update these different charts. But if we stated it as such, I'd like to have something live with it sooner than later. And I do recognize that, for example, like the reporting in the hub. In the beginning, I was just chasing after this stuff manually and collecting the information and then making a post. And every week it would take me, a good chunk of time to sort of do the digging. Now it's all automated, which is awesome, but it's based on sort of a format that came from doing the digging manually. And I wonder if with the wishbone, instead of just waiting until all the other pieces settle, it might be worth having this sort of jerry-rigged prototype up there. I have gotten some messages from folks saying, "What's the deal? It's been a while." So it might be time to just get something out there.
Yeah, I think so. When I think of your role in the that media coordination role, I think that's a big part of it, that you model these new processes, and then somebody like Masvi comes along and helps us to automate those and
Right.
build on them. But yeah, somebody's got to sort of do them first more manually. So it makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
So that's what I'm thinking I'm gonna do in the next week or so, and I'll reach out to you about. Do you still have those 2 printers that are potential donations?
I got to think about this because we've had to start clearing some space. We have put some machines up on eBay, but I think I still have several machines available. I have to
Okay,
get
or
back
even
to
one
this.
would be fine,
Yeah.
just to sort of pilot out the equipment donation side of it. But I think, yeah, I'm going to try to do some tests next week. Maybe you and I can find a time to meet with. I don't know if we would need to meet with Evan or not, but we can sort of go through the process of sort of posting your 3D printer
Sure.
as one of the early tests. And then again, in the documentation, it's up to you to decide, do you cover shipping or not? You don't have to do that, of course. And then you can decide who is awarded the device based, on, you can decide whether it's need or location or whatever.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll check it out. Let me see what I have available and make sure I have all the right packaging materials and all that, and then we can use one of those as a test.
Great. So I'll add you in as a action item. Pilot wishbone.
I have had some communications with our friends over at 3D Crowd, and they are doing some really interesting work on materials testing, trying to really dig into the flexibles and find some new ways of doing them that might be more accessible to the community. And one of the things they're going to be playing with is, I guess, was it NinjaFlex or Filaflex? One of the major brands of flexible materials, I guess, has a new flexible that is conductive. And so they're going to work with maybe putting that on the fingertips so that you can use touch screens. And
Wow.
I think is just so brilliant. So there's some really cool work going on, and just like these little pockets all around that are coming together. Like we'll pull the work that they do will end up feeding into the work that this collaborative design team is doing to kind of try to develop an improved e-NABLE design. It's really cool how some of these things are emerging and coming together.
Yeah, that's great. What I was thinking of earlier, this is a little bit of a tangent, but you had mentioned when John was still here, the meeting that you had with Mike Larson last night.
Oh, yeah.
that you recorded for the Untethered.
Yeah.
I'll have to check out that recording. Assad in Pakistan came out with a gripper hand where they changed the design. It's a sort of a remix model where they changed the rubber bands to tension springs.
Uh-huh.
So that might be
Yeah,
something.
so I'll try to get the recording up today. It'll be today or tomorrow. I have some appointments today, but when I get it up, I'll post it in the hub and use that as a basis for starting to hopefully gather feedback from the community of, hey, what's your wish list for, what you'd want to see in a new design? And I really look forward to seeing what ideas come out of that. I hope people share.
Yeah. Very cool. But yeah, it's exciting work. So I'll keep me posted on that. I did appreciate, I saw that you had posted, sort of a device pilot, and I'll get that poll up and we'll see what kind of discussions we can get in the hub from that.
Cool. All right. Let's just take a look at,
Now, just as a quick reminder, we do have,
that's what I was just looking at, the new members meetup.
correct.
Okay, so yeah, I can make that. I'm gonna have to cut out right at the end of that. I do have to get out to take care of some things today, but I'll be okay for that one. So I
Okay, great.
will see you in what, an hour and a half.
Sounds good. I'll
All
see you
right.
there. Thanks,
Bye.
Jeremy.